Okay, so this is a summary of what I spoke about on the first day of class. But you have this file downloaded, which is located in the content area on Brightspace. And this is the beginning of the Revit class. And we need to modify this floor plan so that it satisfies your design of a house. But this is basically what I start with when I get a new project. I have many things already laid out, which makes Revit really simple for me. And it will be simple for you too. So if we take a look, we scroll in the project browser. If you scroll down to your sheets, which are already pre-made for you, we start out with a sheet location list. And I need you to go to Google Maps or someplace and find a location, an image of a location, and just click on this arrow and move that arrow to where you want the site to be. I picked Apple Island, which is in my neighborhood, and down at the bottom, we'll click the text messages here, the text icon, and we'll say, let's make some tests. And I was just checking to see if it's caps, and it is. And so we'll call it one Apple Way. I believe that is in Orchard Lake Village. Lake, Michigan. And you can make anything up you want. This is a private. Well, this is a no one lives on Apple Island. It's couldn't get to it to begin with. But anyway, that's regardless. That has nothing to do with the class. But pick a site. Doesn't matter where you want this particular house to be located, because we want to locate when we share our drawings. Typically, these drawings are going to be used for construction. We want the people to know where this particular house is to be built. And then also, if you look, you also have a table of contents. And it's pre-built, and there are sheets for all of these items. But let's say when we actually do our project, we don't have 15 sections, we only have 14 sections. So we just go down to section 15, click on it, and we would say, does not appear in sheet, uncheck that. Now, if we go back to the sheet list, we'll see that it stops at 14, it doesn't go to 15. But for the purpose of this class, when I say it does apply, look at it, added it back in there. Did it? Wait a minute, what happened here? Oh, because I'm on. Sheet 15 is active, and I want it to appear in the sheet list, and there we go. Go back to the sheet list, and now it should be there. Yeah, it is. So when you roll up your sleeves and start working in this class, you don't know how many sections you're going to need. And when I'm working on a project, I don't either. So I start out with, I have 15 sheets that I have dedicated for the sections. As I fill up or populate those sections, I will, when I'm finished with the project, I'll say, well, there is no section 15, 14, and 13. And I'll go and uncheck that so that it does not appear in the sheet, which is in the property section of your navigation tools here. Okay, so we don't want this. 15, we would uncheck it. All right, so again, you don't know at the beginning of the project how many sections you need to create for your project. So if we keep scrolling down just in the sheets area, we looked at the site location, then we have to have a site plan, which I will also share with you how it is created. But each piece of property that we're going to put a project on, whether it's a school, an auditorium, a stadium, a church, a synagogue, some sort of a temple, a house, it's going to be located on a piece of property. And that piece of property will be defined by uh, the angle of the property line and the length of it. So this is telling me the angle of the property line, and this is the length. And we'll work on that, of course, later on in the class. We're just going through the sheets. Now, you already start out here. I've given you a basement plan, and it's already loaded on a sheet. Now, as you make this basement bigger to satisfy your design, we may have to modify it as far as its presentation. So if this basement got larger, I would say activate the view. I wrote right clicked with my mouse, activate the view, and then I can change the scale from maybe 1/4 inch. Right now it's a small house, it'll fit, but maybe I want it to be a little bit bigger house. So I might need to make the scale a little bit smaller. So now I can have a larger house if my house ended up being that big. It wouldn't have fit at this particular scale, which is, what is it now? 3/16. So let's go back and just look at if I made the scale a little bit bigger to 1/4, see how it doesn't fit on the sheet. Your project will be printed by the sheets, and if work doesn't fit on the sheet, I will only see what's on the sheet, and therefore I can't give credit for work done if it isn't displayed on the sheets. And if you think about that in real time or real projects, if the people trying to construct your ideas that you've put on the paper, they can't see that, then they don't know what you want. They can't read our mind. So if we take a look now, the first plan, look what happened. The beauty of Revit is when I modified that floor plan, it actually changed the basement, the first floor, the second floor automatically, because these are, I'm going to activate the view, click on this section and say go to view. And these are actually stacked walls. And what that means is they are different wall components stacked together to create a wall. So when I move this wall, let's do that. I'll go up to the ribbon. I'm in the modify tab of the ribbon. I go over to the move icon, which if you hover over with your mouse, Revit will tell you what it is and I can give you a quick video of it. But anyway, if I say I want to move this guy from here to, say, let's grab this guy. I'll click on the object, say I want to move it, and let's move it to there. Notice that it moved all of that wall, including the footings. Didn't move the roof because the roof isn't attached to the wall. But it did move everything on the basement, the first floor, and the second floor. If we take a look at that in 3D right now, just click on this little button here, you can see that I'll spin it around, and it actually moved that wall out, all of the components of that wall. So I can take that wall and I can, I'm clicking the arrow key on my keyboard, and look what happens in Revit. It's moving that wall and its connections to the other two walls that it's connected to. So there's a lot of features that I think make Revit a much more useful tool than AutoCAD, which is a prerequisite for this course. So you've taken AutoCAD, now you can see if you were going to do this in AutoCAD, you'd have to move this wall, you have to move this wall, you'd have to move this wall individually. But in Revit, it moves it automatically. So I'm putting up a lot of tabs up here. To close those tabs, just click on the X. We're back to that section. I can leave it where it is now. We're just going through the sheets. So we have the first floor dimensioned, and that's one of the things that are a requirement in this class. And today we're going to do a couple of things, or we did a couple of things, assuming you're watching this after the class. But the first thing I want to tell you is we're going to submit drawings every week. You get 2 points for just submitting, whether you've done any work or not. Just submitting the drawings gives you 2 points credit, which adds up to quite a bit of points for your total score. But if you don't have your name on that sheet, then you're not going to receive credit for your submission. So the first thing we want to do, of course, is double click on that with your mouse and just put your name. Now, what happened to the other sheets? It changed, Revit changed that on every sheet. So when you just click on one and fix it, then you'll be able to find that it does change that on every sheet. So you don't have to go through sheet by sheet. But what is important here in the class is that I'm going to right click on top of the drawing, activate the view, and go up to the quick access toolbar, which may be when you start, it may be at the top of the ribbon, which I just clicked that and it moved it up to the top. But there's this little down arrow, click on that, show below the ribbon, because I like it. This is my preference, is for it to be below the ribbon. So if you want it to stay at the top, that's fine. You might, well, you're working on this template, so it's probably going to come to you with the ribbon down below. Anyway, I want to put a dimension in. You can see this icon here. All I have to do is click on it and then show Revit where I want it to dimension to. Okay. And I've selected the places I want it dimension to, and now I just have to click where there's no object, because now I'm trying to place it. So I don't want to click on an object, because if I clicked on an object, Revit would think that I'm dimensioning to that object. So I'll just click right here to place the dimension. And as you can see, this is a strange dimension. I don't want it to be that dimension. The requirements in the class are that they are 2-inch increments. So this dimension could be any foot distance, but then this would have to be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, or 0 inches. It has to be an even number. So how do we do that? Well, let's hit escape mistake a couple of times. Click on the object you want to move. We want to click on this dimension and tell it what we want this dimension to be. And Revit will change that dimension by moving the object that you have highlighted. Now, it's not active, so I'm going to go up to the ribbon and say activate. And now when I click on this dimension, and I'm going to say 6 inches, hit enter, and watch what happens. It's going to move this wall to satisfy that dimension of 33 foot 6. If I wanted it to be 33 foot 0, then I would just say 0. That's an acceptable incremental dimension. And it moved that wall to satisfy that dimension. So in order to change your dimensions, a lot of people will think that I just click on this dimension and that will allow the dimension to change. But if we just click on this dimension, Revit doesn't know, do I want it to move this object in order to satisfy the new dimension, or do I want it to move this object? So the first thing we're doing is we're clicking on the object that we want Revit to move, and then we change the dimension. So maybe I wanted it to be 24 feet. Watch what happens. It makes it 24 feet by moving the highlighted object, because Revit wouldn't know otherwise. So as we start to lay out the inside of the house, we'll find that, well, wait a minute, I don't have enough house. I need more space. So you can grab this guy and move it over to give you more space inside of the house. But remember that you need to change this to an even dimension at some point in time after you've put the pieces inside of your house. So we have automatically made here, if we click on this sheet, look at what's going on. There's an elevation. See how the roof didn't change when I moved that wall. And we'll go over that later, but let's take a look. We have building section that moved. We got all the levels that are existing into this house, and this is all pre-made for you. You have this already made. Midterm will be making stacked walls. So I'm making stacked walls for you now, providing pre-created stacked walls so that you can jump right in, roll your sleeves up, and start designing your house. And later on, we'll work on actually how do you make stacked walls, and that will be the midterm. I'll give you some stacked walls to make, and you have the 3 hours and 20 minutes to make them. So we have all kinds of sections. And then Revit makes nice renderings for us. But I didn't put one in here yet, so I haven't made one, but it also automatically has some pre-made renderings that aren't really photorealistic. These are just more basic. But as you change the design of your house, these renderings will automatically change, and you might need to relocate them into the page by simply clicking on it. And then I find that the easiest way to move is to nudge them with the arrow keys. If I want it to go up or down. And as you modify your house, you're certainly going to have to do that as well. We can talk about the grid guides, but I moved the house, so now I have to move the label. I've got a grid guide in there for the label, so I want that label to be using the arrow keys again on the keyboard to nudge it down close to that level. But we'll talk about that, of course, later on. But right now, ZE on the keyboard zooms, extends. Here's your or my house layout, and we'll improve our architectural design over the course of the class. But what I wanted to point out today, to make sure that you did start out by changing your name down here to whatever your name is, so you'll get credit for it. And then we want to be able to print this and submit it on Brightspace. So to print your whole sheet set, let's get rid of all of these tabs. And there's a little red X in your quick access toolbar, which says close the inactive. So boom, all of those tabs were closed. This is the active view, so it stayed active, but we want to go over to the site location sheet list. Those are the sheets that I want to print. And those are the sheets that you'll want to print. Whether you've changed anything or there is information on there or isn't is irrelevant at this point. I want to make sure that you print every single sheet. So we'll go over to the file button. We're going to say print. What are we going to print? Well, we're going to print a PDF. So we need to pick the PDF printer. And let's see what's available here. I like Microsoft Print to PDF. If you have Adobe, I find that Adobe takes a lot longer to print, so I like to use the Microsoft to PDF. Then we have to set it up. What paper size are we going to use? Well, let's use tabloid because that's 11 by 17. And we want to zoom 100%. So it will move down to from center of the drawing to offset from the corner with no margins because we don't want any margins. And then we need to select the drawings that we want to print. Here, I'm going to display filter. First of all, we don't want any 2D views, so I'll uncheck that. We don't want any 3D views, so I'll uncheck that. And now all we want are the sheets. Now, we'll just say check all, make it very easy for us, and say select. And so now if we say okay, Revit, this is a nice warning here. It says you have chosen to print 48 views as separate files. You don't want to do that as separate files. You want all of them included in one file. So I'm going to say no and come up here and say combine multiple selected view sheets into a single file and say okay. Now what's going to happen is Revit's going to say, well, where do you want them to be? Find a folder for it. And I'm making this on the 14th of August. So I'm going to say 8/14/2024. I'm going to write put my name in front of it too. Okay, so now I'm going to have a file. Revit's going to make a PDF file using the Microsoft print to PDF with this name in this folder. I'll just say save it. It'll take a few minutes or a little bit of time. And then that will be your submission set for this week, for each week of the class. And you want to submit these sheets every week, whether you came to class, whether you didn't come to class, whether you did any work or you didn't do any work. Give me a weekly submission and I will allocate 2 points towards your final score, which the numerical accumulation of all of your points adds up to a letter grade, which is applied based upon the amount of numerical scores that you receive throughout the class. Right, so you can see the little hourglass. So it took a few minutes. I paused the recording. But anyway, now this is the PDF that was made. And if I scroll down, you can see that it's made a nice PDF of all of the different sheets. And this is what I'm looking at. And as we go through the class, you will improve and create more and more information on the sheets. So this is basically a lengthy video just to show you the two important things is that one, you need to put your name on the sheets, and two, how to move the walls and modify them by simply dragging them and moving them or clicking on them and adding a dimension that you want it to be. So all of the sheets are already set up. And as we go through the project, we'll populate more sections on the sheets. And then this will be your submission. So I have a schedule or forgot the name of it. Let's go back to Revit and we'll see, what do we call that in our schedule? Legend. It's a legend. Okay, so I have a legend on the sheet already, which is conflicting with my design of my house now. So we'll have to modify that. And you'll have to modify that maybe too. All right, so these are the 3D views of what we did, are already created. And as you make the changes, Revit will change them for you. And this is what you want to submit. So then we'll go over to Brightspace and submit it. And of course, all of the things that I am showing here, we will have gone over in class because this video is being made before the class. I don't know which tense I should be speaking in because you'll be watching it after the class, but I'm making it before the class. Anyway, this should help you start being able to submit your work and some of the important things, which of course are the name and how to dimension. And use your template, which I've given you in Brightspace.